Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we'll take a look back at the 1978 Gene Simmons solo album. Now we know that this is an album that divides a lot of KISS fans, and we'll give our opinions about what we like and don't like about this album, and we look forward to hearing yours as well. If you haven't done so already, check out our episodes on the Criss and Ace Frehley albums. We'll have a Paul Stanley episode coming up really soon as well. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's jump in on our conversation about the 1978 Gene Simmons solo album. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. I'm excited to have back with me once again my partner in crime, Mr. Vincent LaRussa. How you doing, buddy?
I was expecting the drum roll, but maybe we'll get that at the end. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Everyone sit down, relax. Okay.
That's right. So this is episode number 3 of 5 that we are doing on the solo albums, right? So we've already done an episode for Ace Frehley and for the Criss albums. So if you haven't watched those, go check them out after you watch this one. We kind of go through each of those albums just like we're going to do today with the Gene Simmons album, right? So as we say on all of these, we're looking at them as standalone albums right now. Individual, what do we think of that album, not compared to the other solo albums, just what do we think of it as a standalone album, right?
Yes.
Anything you remember about this album as a kid or anything like that? I can't remember when I got it. I think I got them all like 78, 79 time period, but you're shaking your head yes. What are you thinking?
So it's funny you bring that up because I was with my brother last night and my cousin who actually had this record. And not to be a broken record, but as I've said before, the Criss solo album was the only one I had.
Right.
However, my cousin, who was a little younger than myself, he had it. And I remember first time hearing it on, and we joke about this all the time, a Ladybug record player. So you remember back in the day, you had all different kinds of record players. You had the record players. I had one that was like a Happy Days one. I had one that was a Welcome Back Kotter one. And they were really terrible record players, but this was a Ladybug record player. Nice. So my first experiences here in Gene Simmons' solo album was on a Ladybug record player. I don't remember what I thought about it at that time. I was just kind of thought it was like cool. I didn't even know my cousin even liked KISS.
Right.
And I was like, "Ooh, he's got the Gene Simmons. Let me check it out." So that's what I remember.
I remember just for the longest time, from probably the first time I got the album, the whole introduction, the beginning of the album, the whole intro into Radioactive, to me was always like scary as a kid, and the whole demon persona. I hear that beginning, and I'm thinking I'm in for a real demon-like album, which is pretty ironic because it's anything but that, right? But I remember just being like very spooked over that whole beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of false advertisement the way I look at it, because it comes in and then I'm like, not what you would expect.
Right,
I'm thinking maybe something like really dark, like God of Thunder, like or whatever. But it's like a mismatch, in my opinion. But
absolutely,
maybe it was done by design. Like, oh my God, we're gonna hear something really like, and all of a sudden, like Gene was like, I'm gonna give you like a straight ahead, like kind of pop tune, you know. So maybe it was all done.
What's funny is I remember when we saw Gene, and we saw Gene a few times together on his solo tour, but we were at the very first, I'll say, public solo show that he did in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And that was the only time on his entire solo tour that he opened up with Radioactive, with the whole introduction going right into the actual song Radioactive. I just thought that was so cool. It's the only time he's ever done. Yeah. And so as much as you're right, it's a little bit of a pop song. Live for me, it worked. It worked. In fact, I remember when I was talking to Phil Schaus, I was like, why'd you guys stop doing that after one show? And he's like, Gene wanted to. I'm like, bad move.
I mean, how many songs have we personally said were in our favorites? And whether it's on the KISS cruise and hearing Bruce do, Burn Bitch Burn, or whatever it was, and again, for those people who love that song, cool. But, there was a lot of songs. It's kind of like when they do it now, I don't know if it's also because we've heard the Love Guns and the Cold Gins and the War Machines, that even if you take a B or C level song, but you're hearing it live for the first time, it's like so refreshing.
Right.
And I think, when you have a great band like Gene does and now Ace does, and you hear it with these musicians, and there's something about the live performance of that where, the Radioactive on record sounds a lot more tame. It actually brings a totally different thing.
No, I agree. No, so to me, one of the things, though, to your point with the live performances, even when Kiss did it on the Dynasty tour, and Kiss even did it on one cruise, and to me, it just always came across really cool when it was done live. And I actually did always like it on the album also. I'll admit, even from day one, it was, in fact, as a kid, there was really only 2 songs originally that grabbed me. And I'll say how that changed, during this conversation. But Radioactive was always one of the songs that grabbed me from day one.
So it's funny you say that because there is footage, right, of them doing it live in 78. When you hear that version, 79, I'm sorry. When you hear that version, I'm like, it's like, to me, when we heard him do it with the Gene Simmons band, I felt like it had more whatever.
I agree.
I don't know. So although it was cool that they did it live. How many times did they do that live? Do you know? Was it like some?
They did it, I think, through the first month and a half of the tour. So July, I think, into the beginning of August, if I remember right. And then they dropped it and they added back in Let Me Go Rock and Roll.
Interesting. So just since we're talking about the solo albums, and I'm just divert for a second. I'm assuming New York Groove was the longest tenured song, right, from the solo album that they continue to play. I know, I think you've said in the past that they did from the Peter Criss solo album, they did Tossing and Turning, right? How long did they do that for?
I'll say pretty much the exact same time period as the Gene song. Don't quote me. I don't know if they dropped them both at the exact same time or not, but it was very close.
Okay, and I know we haven't reached it yet. Paul Stanley, they did Move On?
Yes, exactly. And they did that the whole tour.
And they did that the whole tour. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's only Paul and Ace's songs that lived through the whole tour.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. But, so they dropped Radioactive, but I still think it's a cool song. Even all these years later, I still, like you said, when we saw it live, I thoroughly enjoyed it. To me, it's still a cool song.
Yeah. So just a quick comparison, because the last one we did was the Peter Criss solo album, correct?
Yep.
So Radioactive or I'm Gonna Love You, right? I had to think about that a second. If you had to pick one or the other, what do you think?
That's a tough choice.
I'm just saying as an album leader because,
Yeah. Look, neither one of them are Rip It Out, right? So that's where we started these conversations.
That's why we had
Right. Neither one
and,
of them's Rip It Out.
Spoiler alert, neither one is Tonight You Belong to Me.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
So,
that's a good question.
Man, you're really thinking about this one.
It's pretty much, I'll say it's a toss-up for me. I like them both.
People comment below, even if you watch this. Comment below what you think.
Yeah, what's the better album opener? Radioactive or I'm Gonna Love You? Let me let that percolate a little bit more in the brains. Yeah, exactly. So that was the first song, which to me was good. And then came the next song. Oh, we should mention Radioactive. I think Joe Perry's on Radioactive, which is pretty cool. So I just wanted to throw that out there just so that people don't think that we lost sight of that.
And I think you've done it previously where you've spoken about, like with Ace, he basically did pretty much the whole album.
Yep.
So this record is it's like a party. It's like
exactly.
Gene obviously wanted as much star power.
Yep.
The Don Summers, Helen Reddy, Joe Perry, someone from Cheap Trick.
Rick Nielsen's on, I think, See You Tonight. Not See You Tonight, See You in Your Dreams.
See You in Your Dreams.
You had guys from Beatlemania, Katie Segal, right? Exactly.
Segal. Probably missing a bunch of others that I just can't remember right.
Well,
Bob Seger, I think. Is Bob Seger?
Yes, Bob Seger is on it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Jeff Baxter. I think,
Jeff
is on there.
Baxter.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure there's another 50 or 60 people that we're forgetting.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the liner notes, and it's just like,
well, why don't we make this easy for people? The only ones not on the album are you and I. Okay, so that's good. So now we pretty much covered that. But you know what?
Right.
I'll just divert us for another second here. You know who was supposed to be on the album, but they couldn't get on the album? Not a musician. Not a musician.
I think I did read about this, and as soon as you say it,
not a human being.
Lassie?
Yes, Lassie.
Are you serious?
I am serious. They tried.
I didn't know that, but once you said that, I'm trying to think who was popular. All right, that'd be Lassie.
So they
now what?
They tried to get Lassie, but here's the kicker.
A bark?
I guess so. Here's the kicker. Yeah. Lassie did not appear on the album. One of my Facebook friends has like a telex or something like that. I wish I remembered the guy's name. I'd want to give him credit. I think it's Dan or something like that. But one of my Facebook friends has the actual telex that went into the Billicoin office of why Lassie was not able to appear on the album.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. And the reason, the Lassie team wanted a copy of all the lyrics on the album before they would agree to have Lassie.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly. And this was, I think, like in July or something like that, and they didn't have time, so they just...
Didn't have time.
Lassie got cut out.
Now, I wonder, was Lassie under the Disney umbrella at that time? I don't even know who was the studio that... Because I could see that, like Disney, you know, they wanted to make sure there was no language, or no, they don't want to be associated with anything like that. Right. But it's probably for the same reason, you know.
I'm sure. But there's your little fun fact about this album. Well, Lassie was cut out, or never actually recorded his part, so...
Lassie lost about 27 cents on not having that.
Exactly.
All the records that were sent back.
Although saying that, I'd love to know where was the bark going to be? Where? What song? We'll never know.
Well, when you have Gene on your show, you can
ask him. There you go. I'll ask him about that. So, all right, let's continue on then, right? So we just said Radioactive. We spoke about all the different guests, right? So the second song, Burning Up with Fever. And this, to me, I remember always being like, Jesus, what a drop-off here to me. And, you know, Burning Up with Fever was an old Kiss demo. It's since circulated. You know, it's from like 76. Kiss rejected the song a few times. For me, I understand why. This song never grabbed me at all. What about you?
Oh, I love this song.
Do you really? I like, for once we differ. You like the singing in the choruses.
I love the singing. This is the one with Donna Summer, right?
I think so. It might be, yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That would make sense.
Great bass slides in there. Boom. And the end, he's like...
Yes.
Neil Jason goes off on this. And I love Neil Jason's playing on this record. You know, go to the bass there. I know. I just like the riff, you know. You know, I just think it's a cool tune.
Right. Okay.
You know? And when I was younger, I just thought it was ridiculous. So I've come to kind of like that tune a lot. You know? So I said like a lot.
Yeah.
So
no, that's good. I'm glad one of us at least enjoy it. It's for me, it's a skipper. I just even with the cool bass lines, cheap.
So let me ask you this question: from 1 to 10, what do you give this song? And I'm going to set you up for something. So be careful how you answer this.
4. Right? Okay. We always say 5 is average, so this is a little bit below average. I'll give it a 4.
So that's not that bad, you know. Right. Considering how I think you seemed a little animated, how much you didn't like it, but
yeah, to me, especially as a second song on the Demon solo album.
Let's you know, at the end or whenever we'll say like what should have been the second song. So let's just continue on.
Okay. So that brings us then to the next song, which is See You Tonight, right? So to me, this is a song as a kid I don't even remember listening to at all. I'll be honest, okay? And it was only in '95 when they started doing their Unplugged tour that they started playing it there, and I'm like, damn, that's a good song. That's a really good song. And it was only, I'll say, at that time that I revisited the Gene Simmons album and began to realize all the Beatles influences. You know, when I got the album at 7, 8, 9 years old, whatever I was, I didn't connect those dots. You know, I never as a kid listened to the Beatles. But as I got older, I'm like, damn, this is good. And it's clearly the Beatles influence. I love the version on MTV Unplugged. I absolutely love this song now. And I love also, Stanley posted a few weeks ago, or maybe even a few months ago at this point, like a photo of the Wicked Lester demo from '71, and the first song on that is See You Tonight, which I think is pretty cool, actually. So that's how far back this song goes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So in its form of the record,
what do you mean?
like you're saying it goes back to 71. You're saying that the music and all that was existed in 71?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We both have the vault, right? It's on there. Versions on the vault, and it is nearly identical to what's on the Gene Simmons 78
So
solo.
you were going to pause for 10 seconds while
Okay.
because I was going to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm going to grab a guitar
Okay.
because what I was about to say, I think now I have to reverse engineer it.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. So it kind of starts with that, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know what the second part is, but
Uh-huh.
when I always heard that song,
Uh-huh. Okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
if people know that's more than a feeling. So I
Right.
always thought that Gene just stopped it.
Right. No, that predates
So-
more than a feeling.
Now it's a D with a sus in there for those, people. But that's what I always thought when I heard that song. It was like, this sounds like more than a feeling. Because,
Interesting.
Gene has always said, like, well, I took a Bad Company song and I reverse engineer it.
Right,
I
right.
took a Who I Can't Explain and, My Generation and made it I Love It Loud. Which
Right.
is cool,
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that's what that was. So
No.
nice little tidbit there.
There you go. Yeah, now that song dates back to 71, and like I said, I absolutely love it. Every year when I go on the cruise and they do the Unplugged show, I'm always excited when they do that song.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. In fact, I actually own... Well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, you don't even have to ask me what I think
Right,
about
exactly.
it.
And I was going to say, I actually own 2 different guitars that Paul played on 2 different cruises, and one of them he used during See You Tonight, and I was excited about that. I'm like, that's great.
I think I remember seeing that. They wrote that
Yeah,
on there?
yeah, I had him write it on it. Yeah, so to me, it's one of my favorite songs. So
why didn't you play it? That would have played I just played on your...
There's one small detail. I can't play guitar. I can't play guitar. So,
but for those people who don't know, you were actually my first guitar player in my first band.
That's right. Which poor band, but that's another whole topic for another whole day. So
we'll save that for another podcast.
We'll save that for another podcast. Absolutely. So, all right. So we both love that song. Then next up is Tunnel of Love, which is again another one. I'll say that as a kid, I'll say the whole concept of what the song was about flew right over my head. I hate to admit that, but I was probably in my teenage years, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I get what that's about now. But
like, that's not the thing at Coney Island that you go through in the little log, and you know what I mean? No, that's yeah.
No, so I'll share with you what I thought the song was about. Right, so Tunnel of Love,
It's
right?
gonna be good.
So,
Good.
I'm a big Disney guy. Right?
Yes.
And they have the ride that you sit in a boat and you go.
That's kind of I was just saying. That's like Coney Island.
Yeah.
That's what
right. Okay. No, but now why am I drawing a blank on what the name of this ride is?
Small.
It's a Small. Thank you. Yeah. So that's to me, Tunnel of Love was Gene's version of It's a Small World. Okay, which is. Okay, the furthest thing from the truth. And maybe if Lassie would have received these lyrics, it would have been the deal breaker. Who knows? Right? But the funny thing is, and we know this was a Love Gun demo. Yeah, this is one of the original Eddie Van Halen Love Gun demos that was left off of the album. And for this, he brought in Joe Perry. And what do you think of the song? Yeah. What do you think? Yeah, me too. Me too.
And I'm surprised because you usually make reference to the product placement I have here.
That's true. That is true. Yes.
And which I can actually see. Yes. Oof, got a doozy coming up. We were talking earlier about Janice Ian was another one who had that hit the kid song at 17, I think it was called.
Okay. Yeah.
Cher, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Michael Desbars.
Yep.
And I think we basically named everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. And Alan Schwartzberg, who played drums on this, who we mentioned in the Peter. Was it the Peter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Played drums on this, which is cool.
Absolutely.
So maybe I'm going to keep this. But
you'll keep that handy. But Tunnel of Love for both of us is another one I could skip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't grown on me all these years later.
Yeah.
So, True Confessions.
We got to get there. We got to hit it.
True Confessions. What do you think?
This has not grown on me ever. Whereas Burning Up with Fever is like Stairway to Heaven. This is. I mean, just think about that. Like, that's how I feel about going back to Burning Up with Fever. Like, that song, there's elements of that song that I think are really cool, you know? I mean, it's even, to me, it's at least has a catchy chorus, you know? I like, him singing it with the female. But this True Confessions with the ping, 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 ping piano, it just never grew on me.
Agreed.
And it never will.
I think I'm the same way. I'm the same way. So that concludes side A of the album. So let me ask you this question. Like we referenced before, we've done the Ace episode. We've done the Peter episode. We're halfway through the Gene episode. Do you think that this is the worst side of a solo album so far that we've discussed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And thinking about Peter's first, his side A again, and you and I both said, I don't think that album gets enough credit, Again, what kind of record it is, just in the quality of the songs. And I just think it's much better than this first side of the Gene Simmons album.
Yep, I agree. So let's go on to side B and see if things pick up for both of us on this, right? So it starts off with Living in Sin, right? With the share part in the middle. This is another one as a kid I always loved. And so for whatever reason, it has like a sentimental value to me. I'm not saying it's the greatest song in the world, but when Gene was doing his solo tour, this is actually one that I wished he'd break out and do one night, simply because for me as a kid, it had that sentimental value. You and I always joke about the bass in this also. You found a hotel where I'm staying. I love that. I'll still laugh every time I hear it.
Like decide to put that in there at that moment.
Yeah. I will still laugh about that every time I hear it. It'll bring a smile to my face. It has for 35, 40 years, and it will for another 40. So just for that one, I'll always love this song.
And for anybody saying, what part are they talking about? Shame on you if you don't know that. Shame on you.
Right.
I don't think they could have put it any louder in the mix. Like the guy with the piano went, bam.
Exactly. But as a song, what did you think of it?
Oh, yeah, it's a cool tune. I like that whole part, how they bring it all down. I think it's just the drums and the bass where, Cher calls. Yeah. But there's that weird background vocal that's in there. I don't even know what they're saying. He goes, I'm living it. What the hell that is? It's not I don't think it's in the first chorus. I think it's like in the second or the outro. It's like that song. What's that song that goes, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka? I
know what you're talking about.
Stop this feeling, ooka chaka. It's like, was he trying to take that? Like,
I don't know.
I just don't understand that back. I mean, please, I wish somebody knew like where that came from, but that's what I think about when I hear that little background.
Which is another reason I wish Gene did it on his solo tour, because we know his band that was with him at that tried to do everything like so precise to the album. I would have loved to hear them trying to do that.
Yeah.
That would have been a classic. But
which hookah chaka do you got? I get the high on the hookah chaka. You get the low. All right.
That's right. But it's still, to me, it's still a fun song. It's not, it's no Deuce, but it's still a fun song to me.
And spoiler alert, there is no Deuce on this record.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
Which is, again, to me, I think one of the surprises as a kid when I got the album, as I was waiting for a Deuce, I was waiting for a Call on Dr. Love, I was waiting for even like a Ladies' Room, and I never get it. But all these years later, I think back to the Peter Criss episode, and I remember saying that Peter Criss to me was the riskiest album. And the reason I don't think that Gene's is overly risky, think about it. This was put out in 1978. When did the Beatles end? 70?
Yeah.
70, right? So you're not that far removed from the era of the Beatles, right? Kiss had not become a kiddie band just yet, right? That was right around the corner. It was starting, but it was right around the corner. So the fans of Kiss very likely grew up listening to some Beatles music, knew some Beatles music. Yeah. So this was not a stretch for a Kiss fan to listen to. It was maybe a stretch for the Demon, but not a stretch the way like putting on that Peter Criss album must have been for people who are 17, 18 years old. I just have to think that the 17, 18-year-olds at this time heard this and instantly thought, oh, this is like Gene's Beatles album, which that was lost on me as a kid, but I don't think as a teenager it would be lost on people.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
So just my opinion. So what comes next? I got to look at my CD because I don't know off the top of my head.
I could tell you.
Always near you, nowhere to hide.
Never liked this.
Really? Okay.
I was always just confused by this tune. It just felt like it just went nowhere to me. I don't know. It just, I'm hearing it in my head. It kind of reminds me of something that could have been like on The Elder. If I think about it now.
Yeah, I can hear that. Yep.
But I think, I'm just doing a quick look at this. I honestly feel like this is the weakest song or songs. Is this supposed to be 2 songs?
Yeah, I think he took like 2 parts and put them together to make one song. Yeah. So you would actually rate this below True Confessions?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, you didn't even hesitate. You're like, yes. Yes. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Because, like, there's parts of True Confessions where, it's like, okay, I understand what the verse is. Not horrible, You got that chorus, the true confession. But at least there's some semblance of a hook in there or something. This song it meanders all over like, where is this going? Okay. It's kind of cool, like musical vibe, but I just feel like it goes nowhere.
Right. No, I can understand that. And for whatever reason, it's only like the last 2 or 3 years, because I used to feel exactly like you. The last 2-3 years, I've actually started to come around slightly. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is a great song by any means, but I've started to come around and be like, it's a hodgepodge of different things, but there's something that's charming about it. I don't know. There's something about it that I'm like, all right, all of a sudden I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I see there's elements that I find interesting, like say sonically, musically, even, vocally, but I just feel like it just doesn't go anywhere. And it sounds to me unfinished. Where at least True Confession sounds, True Confession.
True Confession
sounds finished. I think it's a true finished.
Yeah, I think you did, but that's okay. Yeah, no, I can understand that. And look, it's not one of the stronger tunes, but for me, I would actually rate this above True Confessions. I think I'd even rate it above Burning Up with Fever. And I know that probably pains you to hear, but for me, and maybe even above Tunnel of Love also.
Okay.
So, at least for me.
All right.
At least for me. All right.
Maybe I have to give it a second, third, and a fifth listen.
Or 75th, 1000th listen, right? Because you've listened to the album over the years. Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I recently, I did make sure I listened to all the records before we did this. And once again, when I listened to them, I'm just like, I just don't get this. What's going on here?
I think most KISS fans are going to side with you on this one. Yeah. But again, I'm not saying it's a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, but I've come around to it more in the recent
Cut the
years.
0 off and we got it about right.
There you go. At least for you, right? All right, so what's next? Let me look here. We got Man of a Thousand Faces.
Oh, it's Man.
Man. And this is another one that actually dated, I don't know if you noticed, all the way back to, I think, Dress to Kill is when he first wrote this song. And I think he wanted to put it on the Dress to Kill album, and obviously he got told no, and then got told no for Destroyer, and for however many times he might have tried to submit it. But what do you think of Man of a Thousand Faces?
So is this the song that has the strings towards the end, like accompaniment in there?
I don't think so. But you could be right. You're probably right. Yeah. I'm the man. Yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think this is a cool tune. Mm-hmm. I think it's like, look, I'm stretching a bit with this record. I'll fully admit. Mm-hmm. Again, spoiler alert. This is my least favorite, solo album out of the 4, and we haven't even done polls yet because I think I would have to get my head examined by that record. Mm-hmm. So again, I don't mean to spoil it on this one, but I know I like this tune, and I like that whole string part. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't mind this song either. It's another one in more recent years that have kind of grown on me a little bit. Again, nothing that I feel like on a daily basis, man, I really want to hear Man of a Thousand Faces. And yes, I'll keep referring to it as Man, so. But it's okay. It's not bad. It's no Colin Dr. Love, but it's not bad.
Was this ever performed on a cruise? Did you ever hear
No,
this live?
no, never.
So I think it would be cool if they did this like on a on when they do a, I don't know, I say sail away show because you might want to hear something else, but when they do that whole acoustic thing,
No, I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
to that point, I've often said that there's a few songs on this album that I think that they could and maybe even should do during that sail away show. Again, I love See You Tonight, but I've also seen it 10 times now, right?
Yeah.
So mixing it up, the next song to me is the one that I would choose, Mr. Make Believe, right? So to me, there's no reason that can't be played during an acoustic show. It's another one of these Beatles type songs to me.
Yeah.
This is one that I've actually over the last few years really started to like a lot for me. And it started really when we got the Vault. And he's got a version on there that actually is almost the same exact thing, only it leaves out the Mr. Make Believe. That part is not in the version, but otherwise, and I think it's called One More Try, I think it's called.
Right.
And I just love that version. I absolutely love. I love that taking out that Mr. Make Believe. I mean, it's such a great song. I like this song a lot. I wish they would do this acoustic.
Yeah, I agree. This is another one that certainly as a kid or in the 80s when we were listening to Kiss, it was like, I mean, other than putting on Living in Sin and Radioactive, I think back then, I really didn't listen to this. I didn't give it a fair shake because I think I had already thought in my, I was going to say immature brain, but that really hasn't developed much. My musical matured brain now can actually go back and say, yeah, there's some good stuff in here. And I think once again, we were so like into the Love Guns and the, all those classic songs, Strutter and stuff like that. Remember in the 80s, we were like, oh, come on, can they play Strutter? Can they? Because back then they were doing all the 80s tunes and we wanted to hear that 70s stuff. And they would only sprinkle in, until I think it was the Hot and Shade tour,
right? Yep.
Where they really started to. So yeah, I think this is a good tune.
Yeah, yeah, and I loved so Man of a Thousand Faces. I think is about Lon Channing, right? The actor. I remember reading years ago that Mr. Make Believe was actually Walt Disney in Gene's mind. Oh. So, but I'll be honest, I haven't seen that again, and maybe I'm just dreaming this and making this up. But I thought that I read once that he said his Mr. Make Believe was Walt Disney. So, don't know if it's true.
Makes sense.
Yeah, to me it would make sense. I don't know if it's true. People that are watching this, if you know about it or even could point me to an article that refers to it, I'd love to because I've looked for it again and I can't find it. So perhaps I've dreamt this and I made this up. I don't know, but I remember reading it. I remember reading that, and I usually retain these kind of nonsensical things.
Yeah.
So.
And the Kiss is not.
Exactly. So what's next then? Let's look. See You in Your Dreams. So what are your thoughts on this?
The story is that Gene wasn't happy with the version on Rock and Roll Over.
Right.
And he wanted to do this over.
And then he wasn't happy about this version either, I think.
Yeah. So was this just an excuse because he was short on songs, or was it really accurate?
I don't think he was short on songs because we know that Gene writes like 8,000 songs for every album.
Right.
So.
And if you have the Vault, he could have.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But what do you think of this version?
I just listened to Rock and Roll Over yesterday. And I really never found anything wrong with that version. You know what I like about that version? You actually hear Paul Stanley's voice in the choruses.
Right, yep.
Clearly.
Yep.
I always thought it was good when Paul and Gene sang it together. I think this is a good version, but I think I would still lean on the Rock and Roll Over version.
I agree. As much as this is okay, it has that extra verse in here, which just to me always sounds like it's an extra thrown in verse because I guess because I knew the Rock and Roll Over version first. It's got a few little slap basses in it, which is always a nice thing for you and I, right? You're in your room, bam, home so soon, bam. So that's always good. But
love Neil Jason.
Yeah, there's lots of love for Neil Jason. But I agree with you. My go-to version for this song is Rock and Roll Over.
Agreed.
Yep. But like we said before, I think Rick Nielsen's on this, so tip of the cap to him. Good guitar part on this, but I'll still go back to the Ace and the Rock and Roll Over version personally. So
you say Ace?
Ace on Rock and Roll Over.
Oh, I see what you said. Okay, it was guitar. Okay,
Yep, exactly. So no, it's not on the Ace solo album. He didn't record it. So that brings us to the album closer.
Yes.
What do you think of this one, buddy?
Wow. mixed feelings about this.
Mm-hmm.
I know why he did it,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just start by saying that. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think he really did feel the way he felt, like that he, we all know Gene's story, mom, Holocaust survivor, came to America, not speaking any English as far as I know. And imagine that. And now you're one of the biggest rock stars in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that Kiss had this vision, and they built it up along the way. So to get to 78, which is at the pinnacle of their careers, if the Love Gun tour, we always say, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's the ultimate, So this is one after the Love Gun, record and tour,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The sound and the production, everything. The fact that he got the
Mm-hmm.
did he get the orchestra? Which orchestra was this?
That I don't know.
It was the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And just looking at some of the other credits that maybe we might have missed. There's a certain thing I love about this. I don't know. I like it.
So,
I don't know. It's like
I'm surprised. I thought I was the only person on the planet that actually liked that he has this on his album. I love that he closed his album with this. For all the reasons you just mentioned, it so signifies to me what Gene's mind must have been thinking of at that time, becoming one of the biggest rock stars on the planet. So I love that he put this on there.
Yeah. And you know what I love about this? Look, we all know Gene's not the purest singer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a limited, whatever. Although, I've heard him sing when he tries to sing like Beatlesque. I think he has a really
agreed
voice, and he harmonizes. I've heard things on I know we keep on, and you're conveniently wearing the T-shirt.
That's right.
So many things on that, and then you and I,
mm-hmm.
when we both listened to that, we were stunned because we heard for years, oh, Gene had crap, Gene didn't have this, and then we listened to it and like, wait a second,
mm-hmm.
a lot of good stuff that wasn't used, and a lot of stuff that Gene did all the harmonies on, because you could hear Gene's voice. But I think the thing that really I love about this tune, and just a perfect way to close the record,
mm-hmm.
is that when he says true and he goes to that falsetto note, it's just, even like saying it now, I get like a little chill, because it's just like, that's not easy to do, first of all.
Right.
To go in and sing, one of the greatest songs that were ever written, one of the most iconic songs that's ever written.
I would say, I would agree with that. Definitely one of the most iconic songs.
And who did Sean Delaney produce this record?
Double check it. I'd want to say yes. But,
yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I always wonder, like, did Sean say, are you serious? Do you really want to do this? Or, but to get that kind of vocal, I just think it's just a wonderful way to end the record.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not my favorite solo album, but this gives me a good feeling once it's done. Not just because it's done, but it's just I don't know. I love it. I personally.
Yeah, and I think this is where people are going to look at the two of us and say, I can't believe both of them actually like this. They're nuts. Yeah. They've lost their minds, or they're just kissing ass or whatever. But there's plenty of songs on this that we said we didn't like. Yeah, there you go. You like that, eh?
There's always got to be one.
There's always got to be one. That's right. So there's plenty of songs, at least on my side, that I said I didn't like on this album. But there's the sentimental part of what this meant to Gene at that time. Is I'll never put the song on and say, gee, I really want to listen to When You Wish Upon a Star by Gene Simmons. Let me put that on. But when it comes on, I'm always just drawn to Gene in 78, top of the world, where he came from, where his mother came from, and what it must have felt like. And this song, in a lot of ways, like symbolizes all of that for me, which is why I'll always be happy. Question for you, though, if you don't mind. And I think you were going to say something. So first, my question. Yeah. I've heard other people say that he's singing out of key on this. Now, I don't know that, right? Do you know that? Do you hear that?
I think when he enters in with the When You Wish, that first when, he might be.
Okay.
He might not have hit the right note there. But I think I'm hearing the rest. I mean, that's the only note I always thought was a little weird.
Okay. All right.
But other than that, listen. Right. I love this stuff. This isn't the days of Melodyne and auto-tune.
Right.
Got what you got.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And sometimes that's the charm in of the track. I I don't personally hear that, other than that maybe that one entry point.
Fair enough. I was just curious, and I figured you would know certainly much better than me. Were you going to say something else before I asked you that question?
I totally lost it. I don't know what it was, but maybe it'll come back to me.
So I have one more thing to say about this song while you're thinking of it then. Right? I'm now.
I do have it.
Go. So I won't forget mine. You go.
So this is going to be like, what? If there was video footage available, and they did this back in the day, I would rather see Gene doing the vocal, the recorded version of him singing When You Wish Upon a Star, than if they had video footage of him doing Deuce. Now, I know you
lost me there a little bit, I'll be honest.
And I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
And by the way, if they had the video footage of him doing Deuce, my shoe would probably fly off my foot.
Of course, right.
Just make that.
Right. But we have plenty of pictures of him taking a Deuce. Sorry, go ahead.
But here's my reason why. We hear Deuce, it's Gene. Right? Doesn't have to put anything on. He sang the song like Gene Simmons.
Right.
I would just love to hear what the body language is like. He's singing the song and trying to probably sing it right. I just would find that more, to use one of your words, interesting. You know what I mean? It's not because this is a better vocal or it's just for that reason alone. I would just find it. I would be so intrigued to use another word.
So you ready? You ready? Now I'm going to go to what my final comment about the song was going to be. And I don't think you know this, so you're going to be like, what? Really?
Yeah.
In 2018, Gene closed one of his solo shows with a performance of When You Wish Upon a Star.
Right.
Okay? I have been looking for this video for over 2 years. Okay?
Nobody has this?
Nobody. I have not seen it anywhere.
Maybe everybody was like this.
It could be.
Frozen.
I can't find it anywhere. When I spoke to Jeremy from his band, Jeremy was like, yeah, thank God. This thing was a train wreck, right? When I spoke to Phil, he was like, same thing, right? So I plead to anybody out there, I don't care if it's a 10-second clip, 15-second. I don't care if you can only see the backs of people's heads and you can't even see Gene. I'd love to see Gene doing this, to your point. But if anybody has even a snippet of that performance that night, message me, please, for the love of God. I might even be willing to pay for this. So, yes, I might be willing to. I've been so intrigued.
Can I be like the auctioneer? I see 32, I see 30, 33, I see 33, 33,
yes,
34.
Yes. 35. So it's funny because it goes right to your point where I just said that you were nuts, that you wanted to see a video of him actually recording this in the studio over the original Deuce. And I still think you're nuts. I'd love to see video of them recording the first album. But
hold on. I didn't say the whole first album. I said one song.
You said one
I
song.
mentioned one song.
Okay, you said you did mention one song.
Okay, yeah.
But if somebody was asking me a live clip from the last 15 years, if I could find any one, I'm hard pressed to think of one that would top seeing Gene Simmons perform When You Wish Upon a Star. So please,
it's incredible that. Yeah, it's got to be out there. Somebody had to have the camera on. Right?
In today's day, with everybody with cell phones, how could somebody have not taped at least 30 seconds of it?
Exactly.
Exactly. In fact,
and you're positive they did it.
So I didn't believe that they did it because I can't find anything about it, right? And that's why I asked Jeremy and I asked Phil, and they both were like, "Yes, we did it." Like they didn't want to acknowledge it. I've posted comments on Facebook when I've seen them talk about like playing with Gene. I'm like, hey, what about when you did When You Wish Upon a Star? And they'll jokingly say, yeah, we pretend that never happened, something like that. So 100%. I even know the city. It's I think somewhere in Wisconsin, if I remember right. So I could find the date. I don't have it at my fingertips, but I am 100% positive it happened.
Okay.
So
People,
somebody help me, please. Put me out of my misery of looking for this for a few years now. So that's that. So all right, the album as a whole, right? Pick 3 songs. What are your 3 favorites?
Well, first one's going to be easy. It's going to be See You Tonight. See You Tonight. It's tough. I guess it would be Radioactive. I know my eyes keep going to Man of a Thousand Faces.
Okay.
Although I mean, Living in Sin.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I just go with the three, old standards,
Right.
Living in Sin, Radioactive, and See You Tonight. Although I do like Man of a Thousand Faces, or
Mm-hmm.
Man
Man, please pronounce it
of a
right.
Thousand Faces.
Man,
If I
yes.
have my alternate 3B,
There you
I
go.
guess those three.
Yeah, and it's funny because had you asked me this in 1985, I would have said Radioactive, Living in Sin, and See You in Your Dreams, right? The three
Mm.
closest things to what resembled a real Kiss song, or when I say a real Kiss song, something that resembled Kiss in the 70s. But I think, I'd probably still keep Radioactive in there. I definitely keep See You Tonight in there. And I said it before, Mr. Make Believe. I love that song now. I absolutely love that. I even put that on
Yeah.
randomly sometimes, just like, oh, I'm in the mood to hear that song, and I'll put that on. So that was an easy one probably for me, those three.
And I should note, just looking at the two different versions I have here, wondering why there's two. But as I mentioned in the last episode, that the legendary Mike Stone also was the executive engineer on this record.
Oh, look at that. So
Executive
he worked on both Peter's album and Gene's album. Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
So, and Sean Delaney also did some backing vocals on there. We should mention because he did co-produce the record.
Mm-hmm.
It actually has some Richard Gertstein who played piano on True Confessions. I think.
Okay, well, I'm glad I know that now.
Yeah. And Elliot Randall. Somehow that name rings in my brain. He's a guitar player.
Okay.
Who did Elliot Randall play with? He's listed as the guitar player on the whole record. That's why I say
really?
that.
Okay.
This is Alan Schwartzberg, Neil Jason, Elliot Randall, Gene Simmons, electric and acoustic, and Sean Delaney. So we're going to do a quick.
Yeah,
search.
while you're doing that, I'm
Like
going to
that.
mention, I know one of the criticisms people have of this album is that Gene Simmons, the bass player from Kiss, does not play a single note of bass on his solo album. Which is a little bit odd, a little bit weird there. It doesn't bother me. I kind of like that it's a solo album and he ventured out and tried to play guitar, do things a little bit differently. I like that, but it's a little weird that his solo album, he didn't play a single note of bass on it.
So, yes. But, that was one of those things, too, where I think Gene was like, okay, you play the bass.
Right.
I'm just going to relinquish that duty. Everyone sees me as the bass player. You know what?
Yeah.
And Gene was, as we know, I Still Love You, Forever, Love Gun. There's a bunch of songs where Gene didn't play bass on those records, and they're great bass lines, by the way.
Right.
I think there was a bunch of stuff like on the.
But I thought this is where you were going to go with it. Gene actually doesn't play bass on a lot of the acoustic songs, not like a lot of the ballads that Kiss does.
Yeah.
Right. They've said that he couldn't just get a feel. I'm not saying these songs are ballads, but I wonder if he also just wouldn't have been able to get the feel for these types of songs. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what did you find out about the guitar player?
Found that something really good, and I knew there was something when I saw the name. If anybody is familiar with the Steely Dan song "Reelin' in the Years," that's him doing the guitar solo.
Okay. Okay.
He also, so he's a session player who played on a lot of records, Doobie Brothers, Carly Simon, Peter Frampton, I'm seeing. So worked with Eddie Kramer. So, yes, I knew when I saw the name that, he had, and he was actually on Peter Criss's solo album.
Oh,
and
maybe
this is
wait,
most important.
There's more.
He was the live guitar player for the Village People on the Live and Sleazy record in 1979.
I think this episode is concluded. That's all. That's it. You can't beat that.
Thank you, everybody.
That's right. That's right. Well, on a serious note, though, that's good information. I'm curious to hear what other people would rank as their top 3 songs. One last question I have for you. Side A or side B? Which one do you like better on this album?
I think I'm going to have to go with side A. Just thinking about it quick. Well, you know what it is? See You Tonight is just so good, and it's on side 1. Oh, yeah, side 1.
Okay. I'll go with side 2. I'll go with side 2. There's no song on side 2 that I say I really hate. Where side 1 has True Confessions,
True,
Tunnel of Love. True, Tunnel
it's hard.
of Love.
This is a tough one. I can see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing better than See You Tonight on the album. But as a side, the 6 songs on side 2, there's nothing I want to skip there. Whereas on side 1, half of it I want to skip.
Mm. You just can't get past Burning Up with Fever.
I never took to it. Sorry. I know you want me to. I know you want me to really enjoy that bass, and I do. Perhaps if we could just strip out all the instruments and all the vocals and just listen to the bass, I'll like it.
Can we get a remix of that?
I'm sure. Why don't you work on that tonight for me?
Okay.
So anyway, I look forward to seeing what people say their top 3 songs are. I guess let's hear also from other people, side A or side B, which side is better. And that's 3 down, 1 more to go. And then we'll wrap this all up in a bow in a 5th and final episode.
Sounds good.
Excellent. I think that's it for the Gene solo album, 78. Let us know your thoughts. And we'll see you on the next episode, 78 album, Paul Stanley. Later.
Later.
Alrighty, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that episode on the 1978 Gene Simmons solo album. We look forward to your comments and feedback on what your top 3 songs are. Also, if you're out there watching or listening to this and you took video of Gene Simmons performing When You Wish Upon a Star during his 2018 solo tour, I beg you, please contact me. I'd love to see that footage. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.